Hey everybody, this is Dan and Don coming to you from the Clinical Trials Guru, and welcome. What's happening, Dan?
Battling a cold, but I'm glad I have Alka-Seltzer cold and flu pills. We got to thank Clinical Trials for those. And that's a good point. I mean, when you need medication, you realize how important clinical trials are. And this is a totally separate topic.
Well, not really. We're going to segue, since Dan is talking about medication, we're going to segue into that. You know, I had shot a short blog about how antipsychotic medications are being sold on the street, sort of in a black market way, the same way you would do illegal drugs like cocaine and heroin, whatever. There's a street value to those drugs, and there are people out there buying those drugs for usage. And I was thinking that, well, some of the information that was given to me is that they were used for given to people who can't afford to get the medication. I still think that's true, Dan. But this is really interesting. I was talking to another client, someone who had actually been in a study, but we were talking in general, and that whole subject came up. And what this person was telling me is that what they do, Seroquel's a big one, because Seroquel helps you. It has, I guess, a component to it that makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
And I think the other one was Wellbutrin, which in some people it gets them just a little amped up. Sort of basically, she said they're selling these medications and buying these medications. There's people who do not have the illness, but they buy these medications on the market because it's like using speed and using downers. That's pretty wild.
And it goes on, I guess, a lot of these things we don't expect.
Exactly.
We work in the industry and we hear these kind of things every now and then, but the last one that the last video you did about patients selling their antipsychotics on the streets, I found that to be, a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess, this is something that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it goes to show you that if there's a market for it, it's going to happen. Again, it's just something I've never heard of before, and I'm learning more and more about it. And as I get more information about this whole thing that's happening on the street with antipsychotic medications.
Now, I would extend that question further to a clinical trial audience. Okay. Do you think patients would ever enroll in a study just so they can get their hands on those meds so they can sell them? Now you're selling study drugs, right? We haven't heard of that yet.
No.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Especially if they find out that they're, in a study for one of these two medications, because as always, we have to disclose all information about the study. So if you've got someone in a study knows that they're going to be getting Seroquel, and if it's oral medication, there's that possibility.
Or any controlled substance. If it's a known addicting medication or a known addictive substance, which we've done several of those studies here, it all boils down to the sites out there, the research clinics. You really got to know who you're enrolling into your studies. You can't just enroll anyone into your trials for these reasons here. Imagine if you enroll an addict in your trials and he's out there on the streets selling the study drug.
Exactly.
You got a huge problem on your hands.
You do have a problem. And so I guess that's a good point, Dan. And I guess it brings about the question is accountability. How do you hold people who are in these studies with you accountable to making sure that they're actually taking the medications for these studies? It's just something to think about, and it's something to look at too, because again, it is a market out there for it, and it's something that we have to think about, and we have to look at how it's impacting our industry. Yeah.
Good point, and great follow-up question for all your research clinics out there is, how careful are you when pre-screening for these type of controlled substance studies? Let's say studies that use the study drugs that are monitored by the DEA. How closely do you pay attention to who you're allowing into your study?
Absolutely.
And not only that, but who's your staff members? Who are the people going into your office to clean? afterwards? You know, would they be willing to maybe break into your study drug room? I mean, these are things you've got to think about, and you've got to take proper precautions.
It brings about a whole bunch of questions, and it goes back to making sure that you are truly properly protecting your medication, that you're keeping your doors locked at all times. I mean, a lot of different subject matter as a result of that. Well, this is Dan and Don signing off from another good topic from The Clinical Trials Guru. Again, our website is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you.